Hello and welcome to another video. Today's topic will be creating a counter component with state management in React. I'll be developing a basic React app that utilizes state managements, asynchronous and asynchronous state updates. To begin, we'll use Vite to initialize the project as a standalone instance. And to get that done, we'll use the node package manager, create Vite at latest portfolio app, template React. Then we'll switch into that directory, do a node package install along with run dev. That gets it all up and running. There's going to be 4 buttons we're going to be using to do the increment, and it will all live the component. The logic for the component will be this counter JSX. To begin, we'll have to import the use state from the React library, and we'll also need to export that in order to get this to access it from app.jsx. So here's that happening. Now the variable itself here, let me actually put it under there because that looks a little weird. The variable itself const is a constant, and the first part of it contains the actual count, and the second portion of the array is the set count. So it's going to equal the use state, so it's calling on that library, and the initial state is going to be 0. And this, you could also say use state and just put like 2 quotation marks if you're doing like text or something like that. Uh, so increments, the first function will be just incrementing by the count of 1. So you have increment is equal to executing this function, and the function is set count, the previous count, which is going to execute a function of the previous count plus 1. So when you click the button, since it starts at 0, it's going to say 0 plus 1. Now, the next button is going to increment with a 2-second delay, and we're going to utilize the set timeout method to do that. I'm sorry, the set timeout function. So you have const increment delay is what we're calling it. Same thing where you're executing it. If or you're executing it, and upon execution, you're using the set timeout function, and that's going to execute, causing the count to show the previous count, or to execute the previous count, and then that's going to be a function of, it's going to say, hey, this is what the current count is. It's going to figure that out, and then it's going to say, hey, let's do that plus 1. And then pretty much the big part here is that after this portion of the function, contained within that, you're giving it 2000 milliseconds. 2000 represents milliseconds there. Hope I did a good job there. Lastly, here we have increments twice, or no, not lastly, thirdly, and this is functional updating. So there's a couple different ways of doing this. We're going to cover both, but this way you have the constant increment twice, and that's going to equal the execution of this. It's in brackets now because there's multiple facets to this function. Essentially, you're just calling increment twice. So it's similar to the increment plus 1, but it calls it twice as opposed to just set count plus 1 or plus 2. The state updates in React are asynchronous, so It actually does immediately update in the new version, but it's not guaranteed. And React batches state updates for performance reasons, so they'll both get processed together, resulting in two happening. Um, the other way, the queued batching, I called it smooth. Here you have set count, and like I was saying earlier, it's similar. This one's similar to +1, but this one you have set count, previous count, +1. So this is just incrementing twice, and then this is going by state. So you're saying, okay, initially it's 0, let's bump it up to 1, and then this is saying set count, the previous count, since it was 1, let's do another function, and it's going to be that 0, the previous count, which we know is 1, +1. I know it might seem like a lot, but just how they do it here. And you don't have to write out like an entire function and all that syntax because you're using the equals greater than operator. This discretely updates the state without using set count +1 twice, and React will batch these up, resulting in the same outcome. And then here you have the return statement complete with all the buttons. Now, this won't run by itself. It needs to be added into the app JSX. It needs to be imported in. And since we set up that export in the other counter, in the component counter, we can import it here. So we've done that here, import counter from counter. A lot of this is just like boilerplate, and it was just here. And I'm getting better at realizing you should just delete it because it's a lot. And honestly, I wish they would just make it more clear what part you can just delete. Because yeah, I don't like that, but that's just me personally, and I'm gonna get around that. And, yeah. So much of this is just the boilerplate here. You have the use data set to 0 here as well, but here's where you're actually like connecting the dots. So app.jsx sees the counter here, and it says, hey, that's a JSX file, and then it asks it for its code. And so you're saying testing my new counter, and then the rest is just that boilerplate stuff. So we talked about the code. Now let's take a look at it. Hope you enjoy the visual, the chicken farm, and the everybody's favorite cat. Where is it at here? 1 second here. Here we go. Okay, so here are the. Let me refresh this page so you know I'm not. Okay, so we'll test it one by one, and this will be our tests. So we have increment. This just goes up by 1, and we'll do a little edge case there. What happens if we click it as hard as we can? All right, it's going up, and it's pretty. I mean, it might be like a few milliseconds delay, but we're not going to get into that. Hitting refresh resets the count edge case. Then you have increment with delay. It's about 2 seconds there. I don't have my watch, so I hit it a bunch of times there. Interestingly enough here, once the okay, yeah, no, the delay is there. Another edge case here, can you combine these two? And yes, you can, which is cool. We didn't add a removal one or anything like that. We could have, but it's just we might cover that later. It wouldn't be that much difficult. It'd be a lot of the same logic. Increment twice. Appears that's working. Oh, spam and clicking works, and then it works with the other ones in tandem. And like, let's see about this weird edge case. So we'll do that, and then we'll increment. and then it still updates. Okay, that's good. So it's really the state management. It's being managed very well here. The estate is in good hands. The e-state. Yes, Evan. Stuck around this long, you get some bad jokes. All right, so this increments twice, as does this, just doing different things. And that is about it for talking about React state and component management uh, and utilizing the asynchronous nature of React states. So thanks for watching and goodbye.